stars there are? This question has fascinated scientists and philosophers and dreamers throughout the ages. One of them was Sir Frederick William Herschel, born in 1738 in Hanover, Germany. Herschel became well known as both an astronomer and a musician. He moved to England in 1757. Herschel is famous for his discovery of the planet Uranus in 1781, the first new planet discovered in the modern era. But Herschel made another dramatic discovery in 1800. He wanted to know how much heat passed through the different colored filters he used to observe sunlight. He noted that filters of different colors seemed to pass different amounts of heat. Herschel thought that the colors themselves might be of varying temperatures, so he devised a clever experiment to investigate his hypothesis. He directed sunlight through a glass prism to create a spectrum, and then measured the temperature of each color. Herschel used 3 thermometers with blackened bulbs for each color of the spectrum. As he measured the individual temperatures of the violet, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red light, he noticed that all of the colors had temperatures higher than the controls. Moreover, he found that the temperatures of the colors increased from the violet to the red part of the spectrum. After noticing this pattern, Herschel decided to measure the temperature just beyond the red portion of the spectrum, in a region where no sunlight was visible. To his surprise, he found that this region had the highest temperature of all. Herschel's experiment was important because it marked the first time that someone demonstrated that there were types of light that we cannot see with our eyes. What Herschel had discovered was a form of light beyond red light, now known as infrared radiation. Our eyes are detectors that are designed to detect this visible light. There are other forms of light that we cannot see, as Herschel had discovered. Few animals can see infrared. However, rattlesnakes and other pit vipers have 2 small organs or pits between their eyes and nostrils that detect infrared radiation. Hence, even in the dark, they can accurately strike at warm-blooded prey. The human eye can only see a very small part of the electromagnetic spectrum. At one end of the spectrum, we cannot see gamma rays, ultraviolet light, and X-rays, while at the other end, our eyes cannot see infrared, microwaves, or radio waves. Infrared radiation lies between the visible and microwave portions of the electromagnetic spectrum. The difference between infrared and visible light is the wavelength. Infrared has a longer wavelength than what we can see with our eyes. We can illustrate this in another way too, using Max Planck's law of radiation, formulated in 1900. It's an equation that produces a curve which illustrates that the warmer a body is, the greater its emission at each wavelength, and the shorter the wavelength at which emissions peak. It seems complicated, but it isn't. This is the curve at 37 degrees Celsius, the normal body temperature of a human being. Maximum radiation is emitted at about 9.3 micrometers, and we can only see this radiation with an infrared camera. If the temperature rises to, let's say, 300 degrees Celsius, the temperature of a soldering iron, the peak of radiation moves to about 5 micrometers. We still need an infrared camera to see this. Suppose the temperature rises to 5,500 degrees Celsius, the temperature of the sun. Then the peak of radiation is 0.5 micrometers, and this is right in the part of the spectrum that we can see with our eyes. The primary source of infrared radiation is heat or